Good afternoon, everyone. It's an intimate session this afternoon, which is great. I'm Silvia Lacayo. I'm a product marketing director with 1010 Data, as it says right there. I'm going to show you how you can actually spend more time doing what matters. Consumer packaged goods companies are currently going through a lot of change with the market, the consumer market, the retail landscape, all seeing a lot of disruption in the last couple of years, as we all know, driven by technology. And in addition to that, they are burdened or overburdened by very inefficient internal business management processes. One of those processes is the sales and operations planning process, which some of you might know as S&OP. But 1010 Data is working on a prototype. It's not quite ready for, come on in, not quite ready for, for sale, but it's a CPG quick app that I'm going to demo for you at the end of this presentation. And what it aims to do is to remove a lot of those process inefficiencies so that consumer packaged goods companies can focus on doing more of what matters, which means they can drive more top line, improve their bottom line, and also strengthen relationships with retailers. So what does it take for CPGs to adapt to this new reality? A lot has been said about how CPG companies really need to be driving their digital, mobile, social media capabilities. And while that's all true, not as much focus has been put on how to adapt technology to modernize the internal management processes that they've been using for so long. So some of the most established ones like S&OP. But maybe to level set, let's just make sure that we all know what we're talking about when we say S&OP. It's the integrated, cross-functional business management process responsible for driving business planning and review. And the objective is to make sure that the team is able to deliver business targets or get as close as possible. So we're talking, of course, about sales, supply chain, and also profitability metrics. To get a little bit into greater detail, often these teams are comprised of essentially finance, sales, marketing, demand planning, supply chain, for the most part. And I've seen some of these teams be as little or as small as 5 people, but sometimes on the bigger, more complex businesses, they're up to 10, 15 people for that sort of base group, responsible for millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, sometimes $1 billion in sales a year. And that to me, that seems like a lot of responsibility. And I think of it as true business ownership. So for a team that has that much influence internally and oversees such a large business and is so influential, it would seem that there would be a bit more focus on making the S&OP process a bit more agile, especially to keep up with all of the change that's happened in the last 18 to 24 months. And don't get me wrong, of course, there have been a lot of initiatives to make this process more productive, and there will continue to be initiatives to make it more productive. But I think these have sometimes fallen short of actually being more efficient or more agile. So I want to illustrate what I mean when I say that productive is not always efficient with a personal story. So before joining 1010 Data about 1.5 years ago, I actually spent 13 years in the consumer packaged goods industry, most recently in brand management at Unilever. And in my last role while I was there, I was brought on to oversee a portfolio of 65 SKUs, fairly small to medium-sized business. My first week on the job, I walked into the middle of an S&OP cycle, and I very quickly noticed that the brand team was providing a forecast to the supply chain team based on the aggregate of all 65 SKUs. So the average price that they were handing over to supply chain was $37 per case. So supply chain would take this number. So say the forecast for the next month was $20 million. They take $20 million and divide it by 37. And then they get all the cases that they were going to produce for that next month. So what's the problem with that? how would they know? How would they guess how many cases were going to go into each of the SKUs? Because of course, every item has different packaging, different raw materials. They're made on different equipment. Sometimes they come in pallets, sometimes display shippers, right? They're all different. So it became a guessing game for supply chain to essentially tell the production plants what to make. So they challenged me, or they lobbied me in my first week to figure out a way to make this process a bit more granular. So come back to us and give us a better sense of the business sort of at the product group level or as close as you can. So I took this challenge back with my own brand team, and I partnered with finance, brand finance, see if we could come up with something a bit more helpful. So we developed an Excel model that took about 3 weeks, going back and forth, deciding, okay, how much historical information was going to be built in, what VLOOKUPs to build in, what if statements to design, right? We came back to the next S&OP cycle 3 weeks later, and we presented this model, all 15 line items, to supply chain. And supply chain's reaction was absolute elation. They were ecstatic that for the first time, they were seeing a forecast that was broken out by product group, 15 different groups. Because this gave them the confidence to be able to go to the production plants and say, this is what you guys need to produce for this product group or these pallets or these shippers. And it gave them a better sense of how the business was being run. So fast forward a year later, and the other teams within the same division were taking a very similar approach. So happy ending, right? Not quite. So yes, it was great to be able to disaggregate $37 per case into 15 different line items because supply chain felt more confident in the numbers and they had a better sense of the business and the plants had a better sense of the business. But remember that it took our team 3 weeks to come up with this. You might think, okay, Silvia, that's worth the investment, 3 weeks, not so bad to make supply chain's life easier. But on the bigger teams, the more complex businesses, this would go on to take about 3 months to develop this model. And the model is going to be very different across, depending on the team, because they're all different teams. The kicker, though, is that every single S&OP cycle, now every single one of those teams was updating this model not once, not twice, oh no, 10, 12, 15 different times every single month, or however often you have S&OP. Because the number never stays right for long. And one of the things that we probably all know about S&OP is that it's used to scenario plan. So there's a lot of scenario planning happening. So that's why you have so many of them. But when you're doing that, you have to manually update an Excel model that's already pretty heavy. And if every team is doing that, and every team is giving that to demand planning or to supply chain, you know that demand planning is supporting more than one business at a time. So then there would be this lag between brand handing over the numbers to demand planning collecting that from 5 different teams on 5 different Excel models. And it just creates a lot of hours spent on essentially non-value add work, right? So it's a lot of data wrangling, and I often wonder, what could I have been doing with that time instead of wrangling data? I probably could have worked with my team to come up with more creative and strategic ways to drive the top line or the bottom line, or better relationships with retailers. So that's just one example of the ways in which inefficiencies abound in the S&OP process. And there are many other processes internally that suffer from this. So I talked about wrangling data, which is that top one up there, manual data wrangling. I also want to touch on the challenge of not actually having a full view of your business due to the fact that data sits in silos. And then lastly, I want to touch on the challenge of not having historical knowledge about the business. So to jump into that first one. So we're all probably familiar with the fact that supply chain might have view of shipments and inventory, days on hand, weeks of supply. Finance will know exactly how much trade is being spent year to date or month to date. They will know what the margins are. They will know what the prices are. And then brand might have a sense of POS and retailer direct data. They might know what's going on with syndicated panel data. But not any one of those functions has access to all the data, right? So not any, and certainly the whole team doesn't have that complete holistic view of the business. So what happens is in that 4-month or 4-week S&OP cycle, you might spend half of it trying to just get data from the other functions. Because you want to see, but I might ask, if I was brand, I might ask supply chain for, hey, can I have that latest shipments view that you have, including yesterday, maybe today? It's just a lot of trying to fit data into your own model from your partners, from your collaborative team. So that's also not a good use of your time. Okay, let's talk about the challenge of not having historical knowledge. I'm sure this is something you can all relate to. This happens when you have your own spreadsheet model that you've built and you're really happy with it and it works for you. And you keep notes sort of in your own shorthand or in the tabs that you know the notes should go. But other people on your team may not have access to that, or they have a different model that they use that works for them. So that knowledge transfer doesn't really happen very seamlessly. My favorite example of when something like this is really useful is the leap year example. So many years ago, I worked on a pasta sauce business. And the director on the team was passionate about ensuring that our business built in $1 million of incremental pasta sauce sales in the month of February during that leap year. And because she was convinced we were going to sell $1 million of incremental pasta sauce for that February. And her logic wasn't wrong. People have to eat on February 29th. And some of them are going to eat pasta, and some of them are going to put pasta sauce on that pasta. The problem is that not all the other teams took the same approach, right? So some of the other teams built in, they decided they didn't want to build it in because it was just going to be taken care of by sort of the outstanding inventory in the market. Other teams chose to build it in, but it was going to be spread out over 12 months. And yet other teams decided to hedge their bets and they're only going to build in 50% into their model, which is fine. You have to do what you have to do for your business. But if you're the VP of this entire division and every single team is choosing a different approach, how much time is that person, he or she, wasting requesting a model from each of the teams to try and figure out how it was done? It's a lot of time spent just trying to understand how this was tackled, this quote-unquote one-off. And I say quote-unquote because there are many one-offs. Pretty much every S&OP cycle there's something like this. And so it's not just the VP wasting time or sort of spending time trying to get that view, but your own team next year probably is not going to remember exactly what approach you took because you probably tried to decide between 3 or more options. So you have to go back and, oh, wait a minute, how did we build it in? Let me go back and look through, is it version 14 or version 15 of my Excel spreadsheet model from last year? Where did I put those notes? Or, goodness forbid, you've left the team and a new manager came on the business, and good luck to that person trying to figure out where those notes are. It's probably sitting on somebody's Excel spreadsheet on a hard drive somewhere else, and they've left the business. So just trying to piece together some of these nuances and special situations in your business takes a lot of time. Again, a lot of time that can be better spent doing more strategic business driving activities. Okay. So what does it take to remove some of these inefficiencies? And we would suggest doing essentially these 4 things. 1, we've talked about making sure you have that full view of the business, not just you, but your whole team should be able to automatically start with a baseline of like, oh, I know what the POS says for this month, and I know what the shipments are, and I know what the margin is, because I'm also responsible for the P&L. It's not just shipments. And 2, ensuring that everybody has access to this data, so direct access to the data, not having to ask your partner for that spreadsheet or those numbers. Just being able to go somewhere and get it. 3, the ability to drill up and down in your business is really important because sometimes $37 per case is really useful for your business. Other times you have to be able to look at your subcategories and maybe your brand and your product group, and then at the item level, and be able to go up and down as needed, and sideways too. And I'll show you what that looks like with the CPG Quick App. And lastly, we talked about having access to historical notes. This might seem a little bit trite, but you know it's really, really important to be able to have that view in a way that's not only consistent so that everybody knows where to look, but also in a way that is sort of evergreen. It lives somewhere that's going to survive you leaving the business or survive your colleagues getting rotated to another team. Okay. So if you do all of this, you should be able to free up some time that can be better spent driving the top line. So engaging in innovative new ideas for driving the business. Being able to test and learn and fail fast and then go on to the next idea. These are the things that really matter for today's environment. Being able to drive the bottom line too. Because there's been so much M&A activity and zero-based budgeting initiatives, I'm sure some of you can relate to this. It's important for everyone to have literacy about their own P&Ls. Because if you get asked by that VP or whoever it is, where are some cost-cutting opportunities in your business, you should be able to know these things. You should be able to say, you know, it'll take me 5 minutes to get that for you, as opposed to, I don't know, I have to put down everything else that I'm doing, wasting my time trying to deal with S&OP to try and get you an answer. And then finally, and probably most importantly, you should be able to demonstrate that industry leadership and that thought leadership with your retailers. So driving, you know, really strategic category management ideas, going after those preferred vendor, you know, statuses, whether it's supply chain or in other areas. Being able to execute with excellence on your retail partner programs. All of these things matter a lot, and companies need to be able to do more of them. Okay, so with that, what I would like to do now is show you this Quick App. And remember, it's a prototype, excuse me. So probably the best part of this is that we all want to hear your thoughts and your feedback. We can do it in the session or we can do it afterwards. And Bob Markline, who's sitting in that back row over there, he actually put this together so he can help me answer any questions. Before I jump into it, I do want to make the point that this Quick App is built, it's an application if you don't know what a Quick App is. It's built right in Tenten Data. So the idea is that you would be able to load all your data right onto the Tenten Data platform, and that connects very easily to this Quick App. So can you all see that? I hope so. So this is what it first looks like, very easy interface. So let's pretend I am a demand planner in the skincare and cosmetics category. This is all made up data, made up brand names, so don't just have to say that. I can select dates, products, customer, group selection by. I'm just going to hit run analysis on these two categories. The blue lines that you see there, that is forecast shipments in dollars. And the green lines are actual shipments in dollars. So of course, we only have green lines through September because we don't have October yet, November or December. So these numbers are the months, of course, 1 through 12. What you see over here on the right-hand side is a view of your total year forecast. So for these two categories, it looks like we are forecasting 776 million, and by the way, these are in thousands. The scale is thousands, so $776 million of shipments in the green for the year. And the green shows you how you're tracking in actual terms year to date. Okay, so this looks pretty good, right? There have been some over deliveries, some under deliveries, but nothing too crazy. It's pretty even about what you want to see. All right, so say I want to look at the cosmetics subcategory. So I'm going to hit drill into product, and it's going to take me, I didn't press it, sorry. It's going to take me in. Aha, so I've got cosmetics on the left and skincare on the right. And by the way, this pie chart over here is a very quick visual way to understand the size of your two categories. So what you're seeing on the screen, cosmetics and skincare. The dark blue is cosmetics, the light blue is skincare. So skincare is about a third the size of our total category. So that's kind of a nice, easy way for me to be like, okay, cosmetics is bigger. All right, so what do we notice? We notice that skincare has maybe a little bit of seasonality in Q2. Makes sense. Cosmetics doesn't have a lot of seasonality. It's fairly even, but it looks like in September there was a big forecast, and we missed the forecast a little bit there. Also, it looks like we're trying to finish the year strong because that December number is really big. So I might want to investigate what's going on, what we think is going on in December for cosmetics. So I'm going to hit drill, and it's going to let me go in and see some of the subcategories that make up cosmetics. So we've got eyes, we've got face, we have lips, and we have nails. So which one is the biggest category? Well, very easily I can see, hover over here. It's eyes that makes up 44% of our business, and then it's face that's about 33%. Great. So eyes looks pretty good actually. Like they did a good job forecasting here. There's no outliers. January was a little bit big, but that's fine. I'm not going to worry too much about lips and nails right now because they're a little bit smaller. But what's going on with face? Why is that? So I see again that what we saw before, that September number, looks like we missed September. And maybe we're trying to make it up in December. That's a big number. That's the biggest number that I'm seeing across all 12 months. So if I don't know anything about what's going on in this business, I might want to check the notes. So we do have commentary right here. So that evergreen place that you want to be able to put all your commentary, this is where I would live. So I'm going to check to see if there's anything in Q3. Aha. So it says back to school national promo in September was not executed as planned. Trade spend is being pushed back into Q4, prioritizing Sparkle. Sparkle is a brand, made-up brand. So that actually explains why we missed September and why we might have a big December. But I'm skeptical, so I'm going to drill some more and see what's going on in face. Let's take a look at Sparkle. Okay, so Sparkle is this light blue giant slice. It's not a slice, I guess, it's like Pac-Man of this pie chart. And so that makes sense that the trade that wasn't spent in September is going to get pushed into December. Sparkle, yep, that December is looking pretty big. It says right, I don't know if you can see it, especially in the back, but it says we are forecasting $12.9 million to hit to be delivered in December. That's pretty big because November it's 11.1, October 11. So 12.9 is a lot. It's got a big number. So what I might actually choose to do here is say, okay, even though I know there's trade being put into December, I might want to check to see how December did last year. So I'm going to go ahead and make the selection up here. I can look at 2016, but I'm also going to go ahead and filter because I know I want to look at Sparkle. So I don't have to keep drilling. I'm just going to choose cosmetics. Then I'm going to choose face. Whoops, wrong one. Face, and then I'm going to go ahead and select Sparkle. I'm not going to do any custom filtering, but I could, if I wanted to, look at a channel. I could choose grocery, and then below grocery, I could choose a specific retailer, but I don't need that for now. And then the last selection I'll do is I'm going to group by brand, just so that just easier, because I'm looking at Sparkle. I'm going to hit Run Analysis. This is Sparkle in 2016. So obviously you see blue and green for every month because it's already happened. This is quite a difference, yes? Sparkle had a really good year last year. Okay, so back to December. So December actuals were 12.8. So actually, if you remember in 2017, we said December is going to be 12.9. So this is actually not that outrageous. It's not far off from what we're saying. So I actually feel a little bit better about the December plan in 2017, especially if there's going to be trade put on that business. So I can go back to 2017, hit Run Analysis, and it takes me back to that view. So I feel good about this. One last thing I want to show you. There's so much you can do here, by the way. I'm just barely scraping the top of the tip of the iceberg, or whatever the idiom is. If I go to this little gear up here, settings, and I look at that first tab, data to chart, means all the data that you want to put on the chart can be selected here. So you can see the default data sets are current forecast shipments in dollars and actual shipments in dollars, year to date, of course. If I wanted to chart consumption on here, I could very easily do that. I might not want to do it in bar form because then it's going to get crowded, too many bars. So what I can do is I can click this little plus button, and it lets me actually chart it in a different format. And so I like lines. I'm going to choose line. And now I'm going to select from all the different data sets available here. I'm going to choose, let's see, so many options. Current actual brand consumption. Let's go with forecast first. Forecast brand consumption and actual brand consumption in dollars. Okay, so I close out and I hit run analysis one more time. And it charts both the forecasted consumption numbers and the actual consumption numbers to date. So the red, I don't know if you can see, but this guy is the red. It only goes through September because that's actuals. And the yellow is forecast for the year. So there's a lot of up and down activity happening here, which means to me, I don't know what it means, but if I had a better understanding of this business, I might feel like, that seems about right because there's some variability month to month on both the actuals and the forecast from a shipments perspective. So again, what I could do here is I could say, oh, I don't know how I feel about this consumption forecast all the way down here and this one all the way up here. Let me take a look at 2016. So I could, again, go back to that 2016 view very, very easily with the same selections, and I get a view of what all of that looked like through the 12 months of 2016. And I see that there's variability. It goes up and down. So I actually feel very good about Sparkle for the rest of this year. So I'm going to stop there. That is just a sampling of what you could do. What I think is really great about this, the potential for this prototype quick app is that it's a very, very easy way to look at your business, get that quick snapshot, but also drill down, drill back up, drill sideways if you want to look at channels and customers, all kind of at your fingertips. And if everybody had access to this, everybody could get that automatic view, essentially, like that. And you don't have to spend time sort of wrangling data and spreadsheets and trying to build your own model. It's all in one place. And it's also scalable. So this could be rolled out to different teams, right? Not just the pasta sauce team or the ice cream team. It could be every team in the division or the organization fairly easily. So with that, I want to say thank you. And if you have any questions, we can open it up, or you can come up to me or Bob after the session.